Good morning and welcome to our daily devotional from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn and very glad to have you along with us on this Thursday, August the 26th, 2021. This week we have been studying from the book of James, and we have been looking and studying particularly at James chapter 1, verses 17 through 27. And we're going this morning to focus especially on the verses in the middle of that passage, which are verses 22 through 25, which is one full paragraph in James chapter 1. Remember, we've been discussing about how this book is very Jewish in orientation. So these are Jewish Christians in the early church that James is writing to. So there's a heavy Jewish influence, which is very important, I think, a lot of connections with the teachings of Jesus. So let's read verses 22 through 25 of James chapter 1. But be doers of the word and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in a mirror. For they look at themselves and on going away immediately forget what they were like. But those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. Well, this is a very well-known verse from, that is verse 22, be doers of the word and not merely hearers. But I hope too that you can hear the reflection of Jesus' teachings in that verse about the importance of not simply just knowing all the laws and subsets of laws and rules and knowing what all of those are, but actually doing the fundamental central elements of the law. And for Jesus, this was the verse from Leviticus to love your neighbor as yourself. And he felt that along with loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, made up or summarized the whole law. And the importance there, though, is not about knowing what those commandments are, but Jesus' teachings actually had to do with doing, that is, living those laws in relationship to others. And this is the emphasis that we find here in the book of James in this first chapter. And the writer of James compares it to looking in the mirror, and then when you leave the mirror, you forget what things looked like. And he says in verse 25, but those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. And James is specifically referring here to the main characters in the law, that is, in the Old Testament. James is thinking about Abraham and Rahab and Job and all of the characters who persevered and looked at the perfect law and persevered in it. And there's really no difference here for James between the perfect law, the law of liberty, and the implanted word of truth that he spoke of in the earlier verses. So there's a lot of emphasis on living as we've been called to live. there's no mention here of the death and resurrection of Christ, but I don't think that that means that the book of James is unimportant. James is very clear that all good things come from God, and that God is the one who is the foundation of everything, all the graciousness of God, and that our response should be to live in that graciousness by following the commandments, which have to do with, of course, with loving God and loving one's neighbor. Let's close with this word of prayer. The river finds its way, however slowly, to the sea. The birds of the heaven know their appointed seasons. But how slow our feet to turn to thee. When we turn to thee to seek thee, it is often late, so late, our feet failing, the storm driving us, and only when we have tried all other ways, drunk of every broken cistern, consulted many physicians, and found ourselves nothing better but rather worse, do we turn to thee. Oh, the mercy that thou receivest us even then. Yet some of us must travel farther before we turn again. Not yet are we sure that some fruit of pleasure, some drug of sin may not be the medicine we need. We have not yet lost all hope in ourselves. In all our folly, do not thou forget us, nor release the hidden thread that binds us to our home. But some of us want to come while the day is young and life is full, to come not because we must, but because we may, to choose thee with all the kingdoms of the world in sight, to count thee better than all the treasures of knowledge or the pleasures of sin. Give us the grace to come even now. Amen. Thank you for joining us this morning from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.